Welcome to Mid-Tier Gaming, and thanks for joining me on my first video. The focus of this channel is going to be bringing you content that is meant to be fun, easier, that has a lower barrier to entry for new and returning players. I've been playing World of Warcraft on and off since launch. I've played every character and every spec. Currently, I have all classes at max level so that I can have a better understanding of each class to assist me as a raid leader. I've found that when I was looking up class guides, so many of them were on how to be the best, how to min-max. Builds that often need to be played around because they omit defensives or they skirt around crowd control abilities to get a little bit more damage. Here on Mid-Tier Gaming, I want to make videos for players who are looking to get Keystone Master, who are looking to achieve ahead of the curve, but also players who are not wanting to push big IO or chasing cutting edge. I personally do not play much PvP, so if that's why you're here, I'm sorry, but I'm not going to be very helpful to you. But with that said, let's get this underway. Disclaimer, this is still only in the PTR, where things are likely to change from the time this video was recorded, and I will try to keep the updates current in the comments below. Things to note: with Augmentation Evoker specifically, this is the first time Blizzard has brought in a new spec to a class after it's launched. And on top of that, it is the first spec that is designed as a support class. There will be a lot of changes on how it's played and tweaks made over the coming weeks, maybe months, but this is where we'll begin. And of course, if you find this video helpful in any way, please like and leave a comment below, as it does help get this video into the hands of people looking for similar content. And if you're interested in seeing my future videos, please hit the subscribe button. First, let's get into the build. Okay, so for the build on the Evoker side, we start with Landslide, Obsidian Scales, and Expunge. Landslide roots everything in place. Obsidian Scales is your main defensive. It's a 30% damage reduction. Lasts for 14 seconds, minute and a half cooldown. It's pretty useful. And Expunge is a dispel for any toxins, so removes all poisons is what it means. Having this is really helpful to get poisons off of yourself, and on weeks where we have afflicted mobs through the affix in Mythic Plus, being able to cleanse one of them is very helpful to the group. Natural Convergence, so your Disintegrate, which we're not worried about as augmentation, channels 20% faster. What we do care about is that the Eruption cast time is reduced by 20%. After that, we've got Permeating Chill, so we're slowing mobs with our blue spells. And Verta Embrace, which is a quick heal for yourself or on a friendly. It heals for about 64,000. You leap to them. It's a good quick save. Innate Magic, so our Essence regenerates 10% faster. So we use our Essence to cast our big damaging spells, so having that come back 10% faster is very nice. Obsidian Bulwark, which is going to give us another charge of the Obsidian Scales. So now we'll have two 30% DRs, which is awesome. And Enkindled, so your Living Flame deals 3% more damage and healing. This is really nice to have when you're not trying to min-max things. It's just an extra 3%. You don't have to think about it. It's quite nice. Quell, which is our Interrupt. Super nice for Mythic Plus. If you have the top interrupts in a key, good job. People don't put enough emphasis on interrupts and keys, and honestly, if you're struggling, I bet if you were to interrupt more as a group, this key gets a lot easier. After that, we go to Recall. Now for Devastation and Preservation Evokers, this isn't really used, but Breath of the Eons, which replaces Deep Breath for Augmentation Evokers, is our damage cooldown. So if you use it on cooldown like you should be, sometimes you're going to be in a position where you land that you don't like. So having Recall and the ability to push the button one more time to get back to the safe spot that you may have left from is extremely helpful. After that, we went with Heavy Wing Beats. So this just reduces the cooldown on Wing Buffet. This is nice to keep mobs off of you, or especially in a Sanguine week. If a mob is casting in a Sanguine pool, you can knock them out. It can be a little bit dangerous, so don't just use it for the sake of using it. Be intentional with it. Instinctive Arcana, so your magic damage done increased by 4%. Pretty straightforward. And then Tip the Scales. So this is really nice. It compresses the time, making our max empower ability instant cast. Regenerative magic, so we have 3% increased leech, always good. Inherent resistance, so magic damage taken reduced by 4%. Evokers traditionally are a bit of a glass cannon. We can do a lot of damage, but we can't take a lot of damage, kind of like a hunter that way. So reducing the damage taken is always a benefit. Then Extended Flight, hover lasts 4 seconds longer. This one isn't needed, but I personally really like it. Being able to cast certain abilities on the move, like Living Flame, as Augmentation Evoker, is nice for getting out of things and just making sure we're in position, as well as at the start of a fight, getting a few casts in as the tank gathers everything up before we open up with a big opener and do that damage. Blast Furnace, Fire Breath's damage over time lasts 4 seconds longer. Over here, we're going to go with Panacea. I'm sure I'm pronouncing that one wrong. Emerald Blossom instantly heals for 38,000 when cast. So again, this is really nice. If we get ourselves in danger, we stand in something we shouldn't have, we can drop an Emerald Blossom, which is going to heal us instantly for about 40,000, which is awesome. Okay, so next we have Protracted Talons. So now our Azure Strike is a cleave. It hits one additional target. After that, we're going to go with Oppressing Roar. So this ability on its own is not all that great. It increases the crowd control effect by 50%, which can be good to keep mobs away from your tank, I guess. But what is really good is we're taking Overall right under it, which now removes one Enrage ability from the mobs hit in that same frontal cone, and for each Enrage removed, it reduces the cooldown by 20 seconds. So on a week like Raging, where you have pools of mobs that are now enraged at 20%, you can remove that enrage momentarily, reduce that cooldown, and reduce the damage that your group's going to be receiving. Okay, next is Rescue. So this definitely is a troll ability, but it can also be used as a beneficial one. A lot of the times I'll use it to help bring a character up who's behind the pack to the group. It can also be used to get someone out of a dangerous position. For example, the Worm Boss in Neltharion's Lair right now. If your tank miscalculated and didn't use their speed boost in time, or didn't run away far enough, or forgot to use an ability to stop them from getting pulled in, you can rescue them out of danger. After that, we have Renewing Blaze. So this is another defensive that we get. So you want to pop it just before you take damage, and 100% of that damage that you take will get healed back to you over 4 seconds. After that, we have Leaping Flames. So Fire Breath now causes your next living flame to strike one additional target per empower level. So this has changed from what it used to be. It used to be based off how many mobs you hit with your Fire Breath, but now it's your empower level. The nice thing for Augmentation Evoker is we want to be using full powered Fire Breaths. So we always get maximum effect of our Leaping Flame, which not only gives us 3% extra damage, but it also gives us 3% extra healing from the Enkindle talent, which is just helping the group out. Aerial Mastery, hover gains one additional charge. Again, this one is not needed. It is a nice to have for sure. I like having the ability to be flying around and casting and moving out of damage as often as I can. And then this one here will help our Renewing Blaze restore us faster. So this is what actually brings it down to a 4-second cooldown. Without that, Renewing Blaze traditionally is an 8-second heal over time. So this just gets it a little bit faster, a little bit bigger heals coming from our Renewing Blaze. Terror of the Skies. So our Breath of the Eon stuns enemies for 3 seconds. This is really nice. We are using Breath of the Eons a lot. It is our main damage cooldown. So stunning mobs in place, always a good idea. And Zephyr here is also really fun. So it is a 20% area of effect damage reduction for the group. And it increases your movement speed by 30%. The biggest thing here is the 20% damage reduction. I do sometimes use it when we're running between packs. An example, running up the stairs in Neltharis. There's not really a lot to do. You're just running up a spiral stairs. So where a druid might use Stampeding Roar, where a shaman might throw down Windrush Totem, this is where you can Zephyr. It's only a 2-minute cooldown, so it's not going to be a big waste. But if you do know there's a big AoE area coming up, you might want to save it for that specifically. Now, getting over to the augmentation side of the build, first things first is you're going to take Ebon Might. So this increases the 4 nearest allies' primary stat by 15% of your own, and causes them to deal 14% more damage for 11.6 seconds. May only affect 4 allies at once, and it does prefer to imbue damage dealers. So there's a few things we can do to extend this from that 11.6 seconds. So Eruption casts, our Breath of the Eons, and any of our Empower spells extend the duration of these effects. They each extend a different amount, so it doesn't cover it here, and it covers that in each spell. But this Ebon Might is our number one priority. I don't think it's achievable right now, but you really want to aim for 100% uptime on a fight with Ebon Might. Okay, after Ebon Might is our Eruption. So this is what replaces our Disintegrate in augmentation. So it causes a violent eruption underneath the enemy, dealing damage to them and then splitting equally amongst the enemies nearby. And this increases the duration of our Ebon Might by 1 second. Right below that, we have Imposing Presence, which just reduces our cooldown of our interrupt by 20 seconds, which is super nice. And then we have Ricocheting Pyroclast, which just increases the amount of damage, 30% more damage per enemy struck, up to a maximum of 150%. We also take Essence Burst, which our Living Flame has a 20% chance, and our Azure Strike a 15% chance to make our next Eruption cost no Essence. So that's pretty big. And right below that is Essence Attunement, which allows that to stack 2 times. Upheaval is one of our Empower abilities that we're going to use. So this gathers energy as you charge it up and deals damage at the feet of the targets, hitting all nearby targets, and it increases the effect of our Ebon Might by 2 seconds. When you're empowering this, it moves its radius from 3 yards to 6 yards to 9 yards. So if it's a big pack, 9 yards will get them all. If it's a pack of 5, your 6 yards is plenty big enough. If it's single target, you only want to use a 1 empower on it and keep it at that 3 yard range. Breath of Eons, which replaces our Deep Breath. Again, same deal, you put the target in front of you, you fly forward. What's different about it is now we're going to expose temporal wounds on the enemies in the path, and these temporal wounds accumulate 20% of the damage dealt to them by your allies that are affected by Ebon Might, and then critically strikes that amount of damage as our Arcane damage, which is super cool. Not only that, it also increases our Ebon Might duration by 5 seconds, and like the regular Deep Breath, removes all root effects on ourselves. So you can start to see how things are going to play together. You're going to put Ebon Might on your big melee damage doer maybe, and then you're going to use Breath of Eons and the damage they do, and you're going to want to line it up with their cooldowns-ish. Not really important, that's more min-maxy, but if you can, line it up with their cooldowns. They're going to do a ton of damage, so you're going to do a ton of damage. Defy Fate, so fatal attacks are diverted from you, so this is our cheat death. And not only is it a cheat death, it also restores 175,000 health to you and almost 60,000 health to 4 nearby allies over 9 seconds. One thing that's kind of cool about this heal is the heal over time starts big and then tapers off, instead of being the same amount all the way across. So it's kind of like a quick little burst, and then a little stream of healing coming in. Volcanism, so eruption cost reduced by 1. That's always nice. We go with Chrono Ward, so when allies deal damage with temporal wounds, they gain a shield for 100% of the damage that they've dealt, but it cannot exceed 30% of their health. So that's pretty cool. Just a helpful one for the group. Stretch time. While flying during deep breath, 50% of the damage you would take is instead dealt as damage over 10 seconds. So this is a big one. A lot of the times when I was playing Devastation Evoker, I'd be worried about using my deep breath because of the number of times I've killed myself flying through a group. Unfortunately, with deep breath, we still take a lot of the on-ground effects, as well as any whirlwinds or frontal cleaves that happen. So it is pretty easy to put yourself in a bad spot. But now, 50% of that damage that we would have taken is now going to be put into a dot, back onto the enemies. So that's pretty awesome. Blistering Scales. So this is another one that we're going to use on cooldown. We want to put it on an ally who's actually going to take some damage. Because what you do is you put 15 scales on the person that increases their armor by 30%, so you can think already this would be really good on a tank or a melee who takes a lot of damage. And melee attacks against them cause 1 scale to explode, dealing 3,300 damage. That counts as your damage. Okay, so next is Draconic Attunement. So now we're going to have a stance bar, essentially. So when we're attuned to the Black Attunement, all nearby allies to us have 4% increased health, and when we're attuned to the Bronze Attunement, the same 4 allies would now have 10% movement speed. This does get empowered, or a little bit easier to use when we take Aspect's Favor. So now when we use our Obsidian Scales, which is our defensive, it's now going to put us into the Black Dragonflight Attunement and increase health. Then it amplifies that health by 16% for 14 seconds. And then when we use our hover, it's going to pop us back into the Bronze Attunement, and that actually increases that speed by another 40% for 4.7 seconds. So it's a cool little interaction there. Tonic Locus. So Upheaval deals 50% increased damage to the primary target and launches them higher. Okay, so next is Molten Blood. So when cast, Blistering Scales grants the target a shield that absorbs upwards to 192,000 damage over 35 seconds and is based off their missing health. So lower health targets are going to get a bigger shield. Onto Magic. Your Empower spell's maximum level is increased by 1, and they reach maximum power 20% faster, so you can do more damage or have a bigger radius and do that all quicker. Power Nexus increases our maximum essence to 6. Hoarded Power, so Essence Burst has a 20% chance not to be consumed. So if we get that Essence Burst, which we can get from our Living Flames, which is going to cause our Essence for our next eruption to be free. Again, if we spend that proc, there's a 20% chance it isn't consumed and we can spend it again. Ignition Rush, Essence Burst reduce the cast time of eruption by 40%. So when we have an Essence Burst up, our eruption is going to cast faster. Always good. Okay, so Prescience. Grant an ally the gift of Foresight, increasing their critical strike by 3% and occasionally copying their damage or healing at 15% for 21 seconds. That's pretty cool. So this is going to affect nearby allies within 26 yards, preferring damage dealers, and that's only if you don't have someone specifically targeted. A lot of these items, these spells that we have, we're going to want to have focus target macros for. Momentum Shift, consuming Essence Burst, grants you 5% intellect for 7 seconds, stacking up to 2 times. Always good. Inferno's Blessing. Fire Breath grants the Inferno's Blessing for 9.3 seconds to you and allies affected by Ebon Might, giving their damage attacks and spells a high chance to deal an additional almost 10,000 damage. This next one, Eruption reduces the remaining cooldown of Upheaval by 1 second. So now we're using our Eruption cast to bring down the cooldown of our Upheaval. Anachronism. Prescience has a 35% chance to grant Essence Burst. Again, always nice. Plot the Future. So Breath of Eons grants you Fury of the Aspects for 15 seconds after you land without causing exhaustion. So this is major. This is now turning Breath of the Eons into our big damage cooldown. So when we cast it, we're going to have half the duration of heroism every single time without causing exhaustion. So it works similar to the way mages can have 2 time warps. So the second capstone we're going to be able to take on this side, Overlord. Breath of Eons casts an eruption at the first 3 enemies struck. So again, causing that eruption, which is also going to extend our Ebenmight, which is going to interact with all the other buffs that we have going on. And lastly, we have Fate Mirror. So Prescience grants the ally a chance for their spells and abilities to echo their damage and healing, dealing 15% of the amount again. So they can have multiple mirrors, up to 30% of their damage redone. And again, that's based off targets with your Ebenmight. So having that focus macro on your big damage doer, probably in melee for the blistering shields, you can see how this starts to play in and amongst and off itself. Pretty cool. In the augmentation side of things, Black Attunement. So this is where when we are in the Black Attunement, we have increased health, blistering scales. This is what erupts on our target. Breath of Eons. This is our big deep breath cooldown. This is the one where it puts the temporal wounds on the target, so our allies who are doing damage to them, now it's going to crit and count as our damage and increase our Ebenmight cooldown. Bronze Attunement, which is going to increase the group's movement speed when we're in that attunement. Ebenmight, so this is when we're going to put it out on the target or on the group and increase their damage. And all of our other abilities increase this duration to try to keep this up as much as possible. Eruption, so this is an essence using ability. This brings the ground up and hits our enemies and increases our Ebenmight by 1 second. Prescience, this is where we're going to copy a friendly target, and they're going to do upwards of 30% increased damage with the 2 talents we took. Upheaval, so kind of like Fire Breath, this one we need to empower and build up. This one can get up to 12 yards, it's pretty big. Close as clutch mates, so Ebenmight and Breath of Eons are 40% more effective when not in raid, so it just increases our damage when we're in a smaller group. Defy Fate, and this is our cheat death. Draconic Attunement just collects our bronze and black attunement and allows us to change which one we are in using our 2 abilities, one being Obsidian Scales and the other being Hover. Essence Burst, so this is where we can get the free eruptions. This is our Mastery. So casting an Empower spell grants Shifting Sands to one ally, preferring damage dealers, increasing their versatility by 13%. The duration of Shifting Sands, Breath of Eons, and other helpful auras are increased by 16.3%. So we really want to have a lot of mastery if we can. Nourishing Sands, so when we kill an enemy that yields experience or honor, the cooldown of our Emerald Blossom is refreshed, and our next one is going to do an extra 20% maximum health to you. And Sands of Time, Eruption increases the duration of your active Ebenmight by 1 second. Your Empower spells increase the duration of your active Ebenmight by 2 seconds. Breath of Eons increases it by 5 seconds, and these effects can crit, which means the duration that is added to the Ebenmight can be increased by an extra 50%. Okay, so now we're going to get into the damage rotation. Again, this is PTR. Things are going to change. This is not going to be perfect. This isn't min-maxing. That's not the point here. The idea here is to do pretty good, be helpful, and kill bosses. Our general rotation is going to be precasting Living Flame, going into our Ebenmight right away, Breath of the Eons, and then I'll likely recall back to where I was. I'm going to go tip the scales, full power fire breath, and then it's just into the rotation of spending essence and building it back up. On a more than 3 target fight, I'm going to use our Azure Strike, and on a less than 3 target fight, I would use Living Flame. They both have a chance to proc our Essence Burst. The one nice thing is after an empowered spell, we get extra healing or damage from our Living Flame. So here we go. Living Flame, Might, Breath, Recall, Tip the Scales, Max. Now we're just spending our Essence. And now we need to build some Essence up. Got an Essence Burst proc, good. Use our upheaval, 1 power. 2 eruptions here. I'm going to do a Living Flame to get those out. And go with eruptions here. We got an Essence Burst proc. Now we're going to fish for some more Essence Burst. Okay, now we're going to cast our Ebonite again. I casted it actually a little bit early. That's okay. Full power fire breath here. We're going to spend our Essence Burst in a second. Try to get one more if we can. Can't. Okay. I'm going to go with upheaval here now. Got an Essence Burst proc and use it into another one. Okay, so we got Ebonite almost up again. I'm going to extend it as much as we can here. So no extra procs. That's okay. Still have 5 seconds, so we're going to go ahead and use this Essence Burst, but I'm going to build a little bit extra going into this, so when we use our Ebonite again, we can empower it a little bit bigger. Okay, so now our Breath of the Eons is back up, but we're going to wait until we can get our Ebonite back up. So Ebonite is up, so we're going to go that into the Breath. I'm going to recall. Big Fire Breath into Upheaval. So we've got big time. We had almost 20 seconds on our Ebonite, which is awesome. I'm going to keep extending it here. We got some good Essence Burst procs. We can go 2 more. It's pretty big. We're going to fish some more for it. Okay, good. Getting some good procs. So you can see our damage doesn't show like it's doing too much, but a lot of that is because we're not getting the benefit of being in a party. We got our Ebonite back up to 15 seconds. That's pretty good. Gonna keep rolling with these procs. Fish for some more. Yeah, it dropped off, but it's coming back up in about 1 second, so there it is. So you see how the goal is to keep it rolling as much as you can. It's not always the easiest thing to do. That's okay. It is to do with procs and haste as well. You can see, like, we're always doing something. Always something to push. Very rarely is there a time where there's nothing on cooldown. And that's pretty much it. That's the rotation. Keep your might up as much as you can. Getting out as many upheavals as we can. As many eruptions as we can. Fire breath. Prescience. And we didn't use our blistering scales because we didn't have a good target to put it on. There's no one here taking damage at the moment. So if I wanted to use it, I have it as a set focus macro right now. So I'll put it on myself. Then I can come over here and I can take some damage. Okay, so as I take damage, this is going to do damage. Again, I've taken damage here, so I'm going to pop my macro that I've got my obsidian scales and my renewing blaze together. So all this damage that I took is now going to get healed back to me. At this point, I can put on my next obsidian scales and reduce that amount of damage. Embrace myself. I can Emerald Blossom myself. I can even Living Flame myself. So we do have a lot of ways to heal ourselves, but it's not overly effective, and it's not going to last forever. So we can get ourselves out of sticky situations, but we aren't that great without some help. So that's what I've got. Thanks for watching all the way through. If this was helpful to you in any way, please like and leave a comment below. If you want to see videos of classes that I'm going to make in the future, please subscribe. Again, I apologize. This was my first attempt at a video, so I'm sure the editing and the audio isn't great. As I do more of these, it will get better, and it will get better with your help and positive criticism in the comments. If you have anything you want to add to the video or anything I might have missed, please send me a message or a comment below. And as things change, as this is PTR, I will try to keep the comment pinned and keep things up to date for you. So, from myself at Mid Tier Gaming, thanks and enjoy gaming.